If you're an NFL quarterback, it's vital that you find the right scheme fit early in your career. If you don't, you might never recover from it. It's true that the best quarterbacks can fit in more schemes and transcend bad situations to a certain degree. It's also true that the worst quarterbacks will be bad no matter what system they play in. But below average, average, and above average NFL starters, which is most of the league, are very susceptible to the impacts of their scheme fit. A bad scheme fit will have a majorly negative impact on the perception of the individual player and the output of the whole offense. The word system and scheme make it sound more complicated than it is. Essentially, it just means what the quarterback is asked to do, what throws he is asked to make, what pockets he is asked to manage, and how the defense is broken down by the design of the offense. Route combinations are particularly important here. Mitchell Trubisky was an awful scheme fit in Chicago under Matt Nagy. Trubisky is a narrow skill set player. His strengths are his athleticism, his accuracy, and his pocket presence. His weaknesses are his timing and his mental processing. Trubisky can drop back in the pocket and execute full field reads over and over again with sustained success. He needs to be in an offense that uses run-oriented formations, play action, and incorporates the quarterback as a runner. Trubisky should be under center as much as possible. Matt Nagy used the exact opposite of that. Nagy emphasized Trubisky's weaknesses to create an inconsistent overall product and an inconsistent overall offense. Trubisky himself actually played very consistently to his skill set, but when the scheme is set up to play away from his strengths, the offense's production and the effectiveness won't be consistent. The first play here is a great example of how to emphasize Trubisky's weaknesses. While this play doesn't actually come from the Nagy-era Bears, it is a standard play for the Nagy offense. Trubisky ultimately beats himself, but the setup is a major factor in why he beats himself. He begins the play in shotgun. The narrow side of the field is to his right, where he has a running back and an isolated tight end. On the left side, there are three receivers spreading the wide side of the field. Every single receiver releases vertically, which is an important factor because it's tougher for quarterbacks to diagnose coverages when the routes don't interact with each other to pull the coverage apart early in the play. Trubisky does what he's supposed to do. He recognizes it's cover one, so he trains his eyes on the single high safety at the snap. Every other coverage defender is playing aggressive man coverage apart from one linebacker who is free in the middle of the field. He's lingering there and can read the quarterback's eyes if he wants to. Trubisky stays away from this area. Trubisky knows the space is outside the numbers. He holds the safety in the middle while his receiver outside gets a step on the cornerback covering him. At the perfect time, Trubisky turns his attention to the left side and winds up to release the ball. It's a potential 40-plus yard play, a potential touchdown really. He can make this throw. We know he has all the arm talent he could ever need to make this throw, and he doesn't miss the throw. In fact, he doesn't even attempt the throw. Instead, Trubisky locates the wheel route behind his open receiver downfield. It's a simply phenomenal back shoulder throw to Terry Cohen that would be at home in anyone's highlight reel, but it's the wrong throw. It's the low percentage throw. It's a pass where even though it's complete, it's a negative play for the offense because of the opportunity cost lost. The defense gave up a huge play. The offense just didn't take advantage of it. Trubisky did the hard part mentally, diagnosing the initial coverage and holding the safety. He did the hard part physically with a phenomenal throw. But the easier option was there. The best quarterbacks don't make this throw 99% of the time. They make the right read 99% of the time, so the throws are easier all the time. Their throws are higher percentage. Any quarterback who relies on low percentage throws will inevitably become inconsistent because hitting a back shoulder throw 35% of the time is great, but it's still only a 35% success rate. And that's what happens when you're in the wrong scheme. To get Trubisky a higher play-to-play success rate and create an efficient offense around him, the coaching staff needed to embrace RPOs, yak play designs, and play action. Fortunately for the Pittsburgh Steelers, Trubisky has shown that he can excel in that style of offense. There are plenty of examples from his days with the Bears. We begin this play by again focusing on a safety. Harrison Smith comes out initially at the line of scrimmage but drops deep into a safety position before the snap. Smith is the sole high safety while all of the Bears' offensive players are inside the numbers. That pulls the rest of the Vikings defense forward and into a tighter space. They're all closer to the line of scrimmage and more susceptible to play action now. The Vikings can sense the end zone and are anticipating a run. That means there's huge space between Smith and the linebackers underneath him, and that's before anything has even happened. When Trubisky takes the ball from under center and turns to execute the play fake, both linebackers come forward, but importantly, Smith doesn't come forward from his deep position. Instead, he actually drops deeper to respect the receiver outside who is releasing vertically. That's a key detail. It changes the shape of the space in the middle of the field. The gap is now wider with a void on the defense's left side where Trubisky wants to throw the ball. The recovering linebacker slides to the outside, opening up the passing lane for Trubisky to throw through. The quarterback has to act quickly and throw accurately with great command here. He does so because he only has one option to throw to. He's not diagnosing the coverage, he's acting and reacting in an instant. Trubisky's ball is perfectly thrown for the completion that allows the Bears to escape the shadow of the wrong goalposts. Run-oriented formations force defenses into predictable defensive formations. Single high safeties are a constant because you can't keep two safeties deep and expect to stop a power running game. You can only run so many coverages from this alignment too, since the base defense is on the field rather than the nickel grouping. Here we can see the Detroit Lions reacting the same way to the Bears' play fake as the Vikings did previously. This time, Trubisky helps to encourage the deep safety to the wrong spot by looking for his vertical receiver on the opposite side of the field after turning around. This prevents the deep safety from coming forward early. It prevents him from meeting Kendall Wright at the catch point on his crossing route. Wright fails to create separation against the cornerback, which forces Trubisky to try and throw him open into a minuscule window. Trubisky makes that throw, but Wright can't hold the ball against tight coverage. Trubisky became a bit of a joke in Chicago because of his boneheaded plays, but those are primarily mental errors. His ability to throw the ball into all different kinds of windows is unrivaled for the most part. You can see his comfort on plays such as this one. The speed, the command, and the precision of his actions is exactly what you want from your quarterback. John Fox ran the style of offense that Trubisky needed, but Fox is a very basic offensive coach. It's generally not a positive if John Fox is running the offense that suits you. But while Trubisky needed Fox's style, he also wanted a more progressive mind to guide him, a smarter play caller who could actually open the offense up rather than close it down. It's the same as how Matt Nagy runs a very basic, bland version of Andy Reid's offense, even though they share the same style of offense. You want the Kyle Shanahan type of offense more than John Fox type of offense. For this play, we can see how the offense remains unpredictable despite keeping the quarterback under center and using another run-oriented formation. Motion before the snap tips off the coverage for the quarterback. It also creates a heavy area of the field as the Bears have a wide receiver, a tight end, and a fullback in position to block for the running back coming onto the ball from a deep starting position. This is what happens when you put your quarterback under center and use tight formations. Everything about this alignment says they're going to run off right tackle or behind their right guard, but the Bears instead leverage that threat to run a counter to the opposite side of the field. That misdirection is a misdirection in itself because Trubisky keeps the ball and runs into the opposite flat on a bootleg. When he breaks the pocket, his deep route is double covered and his flat route doesn't have much upside to gain after the catch. Trubisky is forced to his crossing route. Again, there's relatively tight coverage on the receiver, but this time Trubisky fits the ball in and the receiver holds onto it. He makes a very impressive throw on the move while opening his body up, something Trubisky can do consistently. His athleticism and arm talent combines to allow him to be very comfortable in these situations. He bootlegs as well as anyone else in the league and can make precise throws into tight or closing windows deep downfield while sprinting. The shorter route combinations and RPOs will allow him to create an efficient passing game before he builds the big plays on shot designs such as this one. This throw in the snow against the Cleveland Browns requires a lot of control of trajectory and placement. It's very easy to lead the tight end too far over the sideline because his momentum and the tight end's momentum are both taking him in that direction. Because of the snow, he can't redirect the receiver upfield by leading him in that direction. He has to follow the path of the route so the receiver doesn't have to make a sharp turn. Trubisky keeps his intended target infield with a perfectly placed throw. Against the Green Bay Packers, the Bears use motion again and put two tight ends on top of each other on the left side. This is another run-oriented formation. But there's a key difference this time. This time there is no play action. Trubisky must execute his drop without the timing aid of the play fake. But the run-oriented formation has the Packers' base defense on the field, and Trubisky's read is still relatively simple as he focuses on a deep safety. He again trains his eyes on that safety, manipulating the defender by holding him inside before turning to the outside and ripping a perfect deep ball to Josh Bellamy for the touchdown. The safety is yards away from the catch point. He would have been on top of it had Trubisky not held him with his eyes. Trubisky isn't useless from shotgun alignments and spread formations. If 80% of his offense is a tighter, run-oriented style, then he'll be more effective picking and choosing his spots in the remaining 20% of spread and shotgun alignments. On this play against the Saints, you can see Trubisky lead the deep safety to the wrong receiver on the left side of the offense before turning back to hit his tight end down the right seam. It's another perfect throw. But the broadcast view doesn't do this play justice. Trubisky actually delivers his ball just before he's hit by the Saints pass rush, manipulating the safety, a precision pass into a tight window, and a delivery against an impending hit. You will get those actions from bad quarterbacks every so often. You'll never get all three on the same play from a truly bad quarterback. Against the Baltimore Ravens during his rookie season, Trubisky made a similarly impressive throw. This time he breaks the pocket early because of the pressure inside. He shows off his athleticism before delivering the ball ahead of an arriving hit into a receiver between two defenders in the end zone. Not many quarterbacks can physically make this throw standing still. Trubisky can do it on the run. And since Trubisky isn't Patrick Mahomes who can do everything at an elite level, this should have been evidence of what to emphasize for him in terms of scheme for the Bears. The Bears aren't a well-run franchise, so it's not a surprise he didn't figure this out at the time. While Trubisky regularly wilted under the weight of his own mental strife diagnosing defenses, he didn't regularly wilt against the threat of an arriving defender. He's a tough quarterback. He's not a scared quarterback, and he's not someone whose mechanics fall apart when he has to reset within the pocket. On this play against the Browns, you can see him standing and delivering to a tight window for a completion over the middle of the field, typically a dangerous area to throw into. This throw against the Vikings is particularly impressive because he resets into a tight space within the pocket when it is pierced early in the play. Nobody is open, but he recognizes the leverage spot of the defensive back underneath his crossing route to throw it to the blind spot. That allows his receiver to adjust to the ball while the defensive backs can't touch it. This is Trubisky elevating his teammates by covering for his offensive line's ineffectiveness and creating a window that otherwise didn't exist for his receiver with a perfect throw. Getting Trubisky's confidence up and keeping him in a rhythm makes him a very difficult quarterback to counter. There were flashes of elite play at different stages throughout his 4 years in Chicago. If the Steelers set him up properly in terms of design of the offense, they have more talent than he has ever started games with. Part of setting Trubisky up properly is incorporating him into the running game. Trubisky's closest comparison in the NFL is Cam Newton. He's a big-armed, shot play passer with good size and athleticism to eat up space as a ball carrier and even break tackles when he needs to. Here you can see him execute a read option keeper and show his short area speed to reach the end zone against the Cincinnati Bengals. This touchdown against the Cleveland Browns is a designed quarterback draw. He stops short of the end zone but pushes his way over the line with his bulk for the score. Designed runs are important, as is encouraging Trubisky to scramble. He's kind of like Andrew Luck in that way. When he scrambles and takes a hit, he seems to get better. On this play, he breaks off on a scramble through a wide running lane in the backside of the play after reading the front side of the coverage and seeing nobody open. It's a nice 19-yard gain. It's not as impressive as this 46-yard scramble against the New Orleans Saints though. It's particularly impressive as he has to react quickly after the snap to just escape the pocket. He shows off great strength and speed to punish the defense for its aggressive play call. Since he's now on a cheap contract and playing for his future, Trubisky should embrace his physical qualities and run with some reckless abandon. He should run the ball at least 5 times per game if the Steelers know what they're doing. If the Steelers coaching staff understands the quarterback they've acquired, then they'll likely be a playoff team again this season. That's a big call considering the quality of the division they're in. There are at least 2 playoff teams in the AFC North this year. The Steelers will need to win low-scoring games. Trubisky will be expected to make just enough plays to win rather than carry the offense by throwing the ball 40-plus times per game. Much of the offense over recent times has defaulted to the preference of Ben Roethlisberger. That led to the stationary quarterback and short throws in every down regardless of the distance to gain. The Steelers' offense in 2020 should be the polar opposite of that. Not only will that set Trubisky up for success, but it will also complement Najee Harris, the true focal point of the offense in the immediate future.